Sometimes history doesn't just creep forward, it leaps. And we're about to dive into one of those moments. A single week back in January 2026 that completely, and I mean completely, redrew the map for artificial intelligence.
You know, for years, the AI race felt like it had these clear, established rules, right? Bigger was always better. A few giants were setting the pace for everyone else. Well, in the third week of January 2026, all of that just got thrown out the window. The entire game was reset, just like that.
And that really brings us to the crucial question, doesn't it? When the rules change this fast, the old winners, well, they might not be the champions of tomorrow. So who's actually set to dominate this brand new era of AI? Let's get into it.
Okay, so let's pinpoint the moment. We're talking about the week starting January 16th. This was the tipping point. And look, this wasn't just another cool science fair project. No, this was the moment AI stopped being just a lab experiment and started being deployed at a massive scale, out in the real world. The game had officially changed.
So, the first big shock to the system? It came from a really surprising direction. It wasn't about bigger models. It was about smaller, smarter, way more efficient ones. And this is where the first new rule of AI basically got written. A clever design can now totally beat brute force. That whole idea that you needed some giant, power-hungry AI to win? Yeah, that was officially over.
And a model that really landed the first punch was this one, Falcon H1R. Now, it's just 7 billion parameters. It's kind of a lightweight, But wow, did it punch above its weight. We're talking about it outperforming models that were 7 times its size. This wasn't just a small step up. This was a total revolution in efficiency.
And you don't have to take my word for it. Just look at the data. On this AIME 24 benchmark, which is a really tough test for math reasoning, the little guy, Falcon H1R, scores an incredible 88.1%. Now look at Apriel 1.5, a model that's more than twice as big, it scores lower. This is the proof right here. Smarter design beats raw power.
So you're probably asking, how did they pull that off? Well, the secret sauce is this really clever innovation called DeepConf. The best way to think about it is like an internal quality control checker. The AI comes up with a bunch of different ways to solve a problem, but then DeepConf steps in and throws out all the weak or totally illogical paths. So what you get is the best, most reliable answer. And the best part? It does this without any extra training, which is a massive deal for using this stuff in the real world.
Okay, so while all these models were getting way smarter, something else was happening. They were also growing legs, and wheels, and arms. Because this exact same week, AI didn't just stay on our screens. It broke free and made a huge entrance into the physical world, into robotics and autonomous systems.
And NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang just nailed it with this quote. He called it the ChatGPT moment for physical AI. Think about that. Just like ChatGPT opened up language AI to absolutely everyone, this was the moment that was going to do the same thing for machines that actually move around and do things in our world.
And NVIDIA's strategy here is just brilliant. Look, they didn't just drop a new model and call it a day. No, they built an entire ecosystem. First, you've got Alpamayo 1, that's the brain for the vehicle. Then you've got AlpaSim, which is basically a video game world where you can test the AI safely. And to top it all off, they give you this huge data set of real-world driving. See, they're not just selling you a piece of software, they're building a whole platform that is going to be incredibly hard for anyone else to copy.
And this wasn't just some PowerPoint presentation either. This was real. Over at the Consumer Electronics Show, the proof was just everywhere you looked. Boston Dynamics announced that their Atlas robot was ready to go to work in factories. We saw smart home robots from LG, a vacuum cleaner from Roborock that can climb stairs. And get this, a humanoid robot for less than 10 grand that can actually handle your appliances and clothes. This isn't sci-fi anymore. This is stuff you can buy.
So, with all this crazy new tech bubbling up, you can bet the big tech giants weren't just sitting on the sidelines watching. Oh no. They responded with some absolutely massive, earth-shaking power plays to make sure they stayed on top.
And the biggest bombshell of the week had to be this one. Apple, the company that is famous for controlling every single piece of its ecosystem, announced a deal worth something like $5 billion to put Google's Gemini AI right into the heart of Siri and Apple Intelligence. I mean, this is a truly tectonic shift for AI on your phone.
So let's just break down the winners and losers here. For Apple, this was probably a tough pill to swallow, but they had to do it to catch up on AI. The downside? They're now depending on their biggest rival. For Google, this is a home run. They get their AI onto 1.5 billion devices and get to see all that juicy interaction data. And what about OpenAI? Well, suddenly their ChatGPT deal with Apple doesn't seem so special anymore, which really hurts their leverage.
Okay, so while Apple and Google are teaming up, Meta was making a completely different kind of move. They rolled out this new division, Meta Compute, and basically declared that their infrastructure, all their data centers and networks, wasn't just some line item on a budget anymore. No, it was now their #1 competitive weapon, a durable competitive moat, as they put it.
And when they say they're serious, they mean it. They backed up that talk with an almost unbelievable number. $600 billion. That's what they plan to invest in their U.S. infrastructure by 2028. We're not just talking about buying a few more servers here. This is an all-out effort to build an advantage that no one can possibly catch up to.
And that's really the whole strategy behind that insane price tag. To Meta, that $600 billion isn't just an expense. It's the cost of building an impenetrable fortress of computing power. A moat so deep and wide that no other company can even dream of crossing it. Okay, so let's take a breath. After that absolute whirlwind of a week, we are left with a brand new playbook for how you win in AI. So let's try to put all the pieces together and figure out what this really means for the future. You might be wondering, why these massive investments? Well, this chart says it all. The market for what we call agentic AI, AI that can actually do complex stuff for you, is set to explode. We're talking a 40x expansion in just a decade, from around $5 billion to $200 billion. That is the prize everyone has their eyes on.
So what are the new rules of the game in this new world order? Well, there are 4 big ones. Rule number 1, raw infrastructure, pure computing power, is now more important than flashy product features. Rule 2, the real money isn't just in training AI anymore. It's in running it super cheaply and fast, what we call inference. Third, if you're building your own chips, you have a massive leg up on the competition. And finally, the new strategy is to give your models away for free so you can lock everyone into your paid ecosystem.
But look, this new world isn't all sunshine and roses. There are some serious risks on the horizon. For one, we're seeing a scary amount of power getting concentrated into the hands of just a few companies. The whole industry is also incredibly dependent on chip factories in Taiwan and South Korea. We talked about Apple, who's now kind of at the mercy of Google's future plans. And for all those cool robots, yeah, it's still a big question mark whether anyone can actually make money building them.
And all of this really leaves us with one last and maybe most important question. We've just seen how a tiny handful of giants are pouring hundreds of billions of dollars into building the very foundations of our AI future, a future that's going to be filled with physical autonomous robots. But as they're building these incredibly powerful platforms, who's making sure they're being built to work for all of us, not just for them? That is the question we all need to start asking.